note that Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Dirkling are both absent. And Marge called and said had injured herself, and I guess Mr. Anderson's sick. Somebody want to make a motion to excuse him?
I'll make that motion to excuse both of those.
I'll second the motion. Jim?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes. Comments from public on agenda items? Now would be a good time to talk. If you got anything.
On the ordinance violations and enforcement, I looked it up in the ordinance book here a while back about the noise ordinance, and it goes by the state ordinances.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any possibility of writing a village ordinance, or at least doing something about the guy down the alley? He was playing again Monday night until 11:15.
Well, I think the way our ordinance reads, our village ordinance,
There isn't one in regards to noise.
well, it falls under the nuisance. It falls under the nuisance category. I think I mentioned that before. I think if you got one other neighbor to join you in a complaint, then we could pursue it.
Okay.
And I think if you look at the ordinance, it deals with nuisances. That's kind of what's called for.
Okay.
Okay.
Brandon.
Now, initially, it'd probably be a letter, you know.
Right.
But,
Maybe just walk over and tell him.
well, I don't know if you ever did talk to him, Dale.
Yeah.
He doesn't want me to walk over there and talk to him because I'm going to tell him what I think of hearing House of the Rising Sun over and over again, and Sweet Home Alabama. If they haven't mastered it by now, they're not going to. I've been hearing the same
What
stuff
was
for a
the one
year
that we
and a
always
half.
listened to that they had?
House of the
Okay,
Rising
well,
Sun.
I mean,
And Louie.
I studied
Louie
classical
was the
guitar in
one we-
I
college.
think if something bothered me badly enough, I would probably address it before asking somebody else to address it. But I'm just telling you.
Well,
It evidently, nobody else has said anything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have. He's been doing it ever since he moved in there, ever since he built his
Okay,
garage.
well, there's your neighbor, I mean.
And
Brandon. Talk to Brandon.
And talk to Brandon. He keeps their baby awake. So, but he used to play until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh, you're lucky.
I would be down there then.
He used to play until 2. Before you moved in, he played till 2 o'clock.
All right.
And it
Well,
was
that is
Louie
what-
Louie.
I mean,
That one too.
okay.
You can only make out about 1/3 of what they play.
The reason number 5 is here is for the village to enforce ordinances, so I guess that's appropriate under the broad umbrella of ordinances. I don't have any problem with talking to Randy as far as that's concerned.
I would appreciate it. You know, I think 10 o'clock is plenty late enough.
I mean, you called me the one time, this is the second time I've
Yeah.
heard about it.
Yeah,
So there was no way that I would know
right,
that it hadn't been addressed
right.
by you.
But I think 10 o'clock is plenty late enough, and, you know, that's what
I
the
agree.
state ordinance says, is 10 p.m. to 7
I
a.m.
don't have a problem with that. I'm sure of that will. Okay, anything else? I think I know that, or I won't remember. The lagoon project update, there are a number of things. I think best, first we take this resolution. You tell them who's not satisfied. We made a motion to purchase the land, and it passed. But that wasn't satisfactory
For the title company.
for the title company. Although the policy's been issued, we need to pass a resolution approving purchase of the land. So here we have resolution number 1-2014. Oh boy. Wherefore the Board of Trustees of the Village of Alexandria, Nebraska previously approved by motion certain land purchases for the sewer project being undertaken by the village. And wherefore the title company insuring real estate for said project requires these actions be in resolution form Now therefore the Board of Trustees hereby adopts the following resolutions and declares same to be in full force and effect. Resolved that the actions of the Board of Trustees taken on January 8, 2014 in approving the purchase of a parcel of land in tax lot 21 in the northwest quarter of section 12-3-1, Thayer County, Nebraska, from Alan Diane Dukes. Leasehold interest in Dawn May is hereby approved and ratified. Resolved further that the actions of the Board of Trustees taken on February 12, 2014 in approving the purchase of a parcel of land in the northeast quarter and the northwest quarter of section 12-3-1 from Robert and Betty Smith. Leasehold interest in Heath Stewart is hereby approved and ratified. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move we approve resolution 1-2014.
Jim?
Second.
Okay.
Problem got addressed.
Any discussion?
Nope.
Today is the what, 14th? Call the question. Jeremy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I'll vote yes.
It's 3-1.
Usually it's majority.
For the benefit of those in attendance, we do have the title insurance, and bidding is, or not bidding, advertising is ongoing of the project. We expect to open bids on the 4th of June. There will be no action taken. It will not be a board meeting because there will be 2 board members present. We'll open the bids, and then the engineer will take the bids and review them. Probably we'll take a look at them as a board, depending on how they come in, the meeting on the 11th.
If the USDA.
Yeah, and USDA has to take a look at
We have
them
to
as
have
well.
everything.
Okay.
We have 30, basically 30
But the good news
days.
is we are in the advertising stage, and we are not all that far removed from the possibility of letting a bid if there aren't any further holdups, I guess. So that's pretty much the update on the lagoon project, unless somebody on the board has a question.
She's got one.
I got a quick question. How'd you come out on the title insurance?
What do you mean?
The title search where there was a lien against the property?
Those were resolved.
Was it resolved?
Yes,
Okay.
the liens were removed, the policy has been issued, so that's
Okay.
all been taken care of. But I don't mind you reviewing. Yeah, there was, last meeting, we were looking at liens that still were on file. Okay, claims, treasury reports, and minutes. I looked at these before I came over, and I did as well. As I look at this, I'll just make mention that last Friday, I left town about noon, and the garbage hadn't been picked up. And I was sure other people noticed as well as myself. And
It didn't
then
come till 5 o'clock.
I didn't, when I got back about 4, the garbage still hadn't been picked up, and so I called, I just want you to know that I called the garbage company and got a hold of him. He was on his way back from Omaha. Make a long story short, they'd had a truck, power takeoff on their truck had broken down. And in fact, when I called, they were in town. But I hadn't driven around town, I just drove down the street to my house, and that street hadn't been picked up. But I didn't say anything. I guess I said something facetiously to Mrs. Rutt that most of their breakdowns seem to occur on Friday, but they haven't missed yet, I don't think.
They never picked up mine the week before.
at
See, they
all.
didn't, my daughter lives right across from me and they didn't pick hers up either that one week.
You need to,
2 weeks before that, they didn't pick it up either.
They missed mine once.
Yeah, I don't understand why.
They got Jack that missed mine.
Well-
I don't know what was up with
I
that.
called him too. I
Did
wasn't
you?
too happy about it, but he still never came. He left it sit there until the next week.
I feel like, you know, when everybody paid their own garbage bill, then I felt like it was the responsibility of the individual to contact the garbage company, because you had the, you know, we had the contract with them. Now that the village has the contract, I'll make the call, but you have to call me and tell me that it isn't picked up, otherwise I don't know. So, I'm not ducking that at all, and that's why I'm mentioning it now. This is not the first time they've been late. I'm not so concerned about that. All it says that they'll be here Friday. You know, I may mention to him, it's a little disconcerting when one week they're here at 8, the next week they're not here till 10, and then the next week here, you know, I mean, but.
That part, I don't really care as long as they come. You know, I mean, that one week they had trash floating out there on 53. The bags must have been falling off because they were on the side of the road going up on 53.
Some of these things probably need to be reported at the time so that the guy that owns the company is aware of them, because these guys, you know, I'm not saying he doesn't come out at all, but most of the time he's not on one of these.
Well, I know one time that truck, that pickup, it was just loaded up there to the tops. And maybe it fell out of that. I don't know, you know, but I do know it was laying on 53.
Well, I had them try to pick up garbage one day when same deal. There's no freaking way they were gonna get garbage. They had, the truck was already, I mean, this was that little truck. You can't get any
Yeah.
more in it, you know.
Right.
But anyway, that's what happened Friday, last Friday. I don't think I have anything else to speak to specifically.
I'll move we accept claims treasurer's report and minutes.
Second.
Yeah.
Had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call me. I'm only gonna, I can't report it to him if I don't know it.
Okay.
All right? I'll be happy to call him. Not happy, but I'll do it. Yes.
Okay, if they don't pick it up, like him, 2 weeks he didn't get his picked up, but he still has to pay the $14 or whatever it is that we're paying a month.
That's up to
Okay.
Jim, I guess.
I know, but what I'm saying is if you have over the amount, like when Wiles down there had a bunch that need to be picked up, or if you have more than 1 or 2 bags, then they want to charge you extra.
I don't know
So
what the magic amount is.
I
but-
don't either, but I talked to the trash man and he had said it would be extra on certain ones. And so if you've got to pay extra, then should it not be taken off when they don't pick it up?
Well, I wouldn't have any trouble making a deduction myself. I mean, what I'm saying is, if they didn't pick up my trash for a week, and I got my monthly bill from Mrs. Rutt, and I wrote a note and said, my trash was not picked up such and such a day, here's 3/4 of the garbage fee, I'd let her worry about it.
Well, we could
I
do
would.
next week when they picked up 2 weeks of
Yeah,
it, so.
but the other thing is, that's not
You know,
probably a good way to
is that double?
get your service improved.
No, I would.
What
think
if they didn't pick it up one week and now you have double the trash next week? Are they gonna charge you extra
I
then
would
for it?
think, I don't
I
think
mean,
that's
how do you
ever
know?
happened. I put out a lot of trash and they picked it up.
I have too, and I've never been charged extra, you know.
No, nor have I,
Okay,
nor have I.
all
I
right.
haven't put out any sofas, but.
No, I haven't either, but, you know.
I've had 4 big cans out
He
there. at one
apologized
time,
to
and
me,
they
he said the guy
picked
just
it
must
up.
have forgot. He apologized, he was real nice,
I
but
would've just said,
Said
we
we
want
had
to
a
be here to
couch
pick it
and
up.
rolled up carpet
Well,
at Dalton's
Because
house.
when I
and
called him,
we had
he
it
said
that house
something.
after the
Yeah,
last
I heard
winter,
that.
and they picked
I
that up.
mean, you know, I've had it where they have broken a fluorescent light on the pavement. Well, then I gotta run out there and quickly clean it up before somebody drives over it and gets their tires.
I have called over there too on the very day when, you know, when they did miss people, and he had sent a truck back. That has happened.
Okay.
But again, if nobody calls you, you don't know. I'm not sure the truck even got back to Hebron before I called. So,
maybe some of their employees.
yeah, I don't think he's, we're not talking rocket
Right.
science here. Any other questions on, or do we vote on it?
We haven't voted.
We haven't voted. We got a motion and a second. Call the question. Jeremy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, ordinance violations and enforcement. The reason I had this on the agenda is, and it doesn't hurt to talk about Doreen's inquiry, because I really kind of want to talk in general anyway, that if we notify somebody of an ordinance violation and we give them a either a timeline or some kind of a consequence, you know, we're going to file a complaint with the county sheriff or whatever. We know from our experience with the nuisance properties that the cost to the village is likely to be as much as the cost or inconvenience to the offender. All right. So we're going, that's not a big deal. A $500 or $350 bill might not be a big deal if you're living in Lincoln, but here it is a big deal because $350 of property taxes money is a pretty significant, and that's where that money is going to come from. In any event, the reason I had it on the agenda is that after the last meeting, I notified a person in the community of ordinance violations and gave them 45 days to correct, okay, or face possible prosecution by the village. All right, but that doesn't, that means is, and I did say may, I didn't say shall, I said may. That means that the board has can choose, that 45 days is not up, and in fact, the start of the 45 days might now be in question. But regardless, the board has to choose whether or not they want to pursue enforcement if it's going to involve expenditure of money. Okay. On the other hand, I think the ordinances in question here have been on the books for years. There's nothing new about these ordinances. And before the letter was sent to the person, I'd verbally explained the content of the ordinance, and subsequent to the letter, I verbally explained the contents of the ordinance twice. So there's been plenty of dialogue. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that anybody has to accept my explanation either. But the way that you pursue that is also through the court. All right? And then the board has to decide, as they did in the ACLU matter, whether or not they want to contest an issue. I feel very comfortable with the ordinances that we're enforcing, or that I've explained to the person in question. So the letter that went out to the person is in the board's packet of materials. There's no need for any action here on that item at this time. Does anybody have any questions?
I'd like to add a little bit to this. We have a few places here in town on top of the letter that you sent that have moved in or had built a couple storage sheds and
Right.
and a
I'm aware of that.
garage. What are our actions for that?
Well, I don't know if there's any, I don't know whether they did anything with the county zoning board. We don't have any evidence that they did.
Right,
But
because it
those,
usually comes to
but
us.
those are also portable structures. They were pre-built, well, at least the ones I'm aware of.
Okay.
I don't know, I guess I'm not,
There's a garage that he moved in at the south end of Main Street.
I'm
And
not,
again, I don't
guess I'm not aware of.
know who lives there.
Wilma Bussing's old place.
Oops.
Wilma's old place.
No,
No, that's
Susan and Mark down on that
Yeah,
end.
Mark something.
Normally
Yeah.
I'll tell you his name, but I can't.
used to be Durflinger's old. I mean,
It was Susan and Mark that on that end.
Willicot's place.
The very last house on
Oh.
the right.
Willicot's place.
Mary's crazy Mary.
Chris Fry told me to send him the addresses and they would take care of it. If they need a
Okay.
building permit, he
Okay.
will
He
notify
just
him.
should have had a building permit, so.
He just said to notify him when something comes up in town and he will take care of it.
All right, well, problem solved then. Gotcha.
So can I ask a question? So that means if, say we wanted to tear down our two little sheds in our backyard, we just have to get something from Chris Fry saying that we can build another one shed back there.
If you want to build.
If you wanted to build one and
Permanent structure.
it,
It's
If
permanent,
it's gonna
right?
be removable structure,
Oh.
you can just do whatever you want to do.
If it's not permanent, you don't have to get a permit, do you, to bring it in?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I'm sure we'll find out. I was making a distinction. I mean, it's like a car. You know, you can haul it in, you can haul it off.
Right.
But maybe I'm wrong on that. I hadn't looked into that, so I honestly can't. But if that ought to be explained to Mr. Fry too, but I guess I'm not aware of
It
the
would
one
just
on the
take
south end of town, but
Yeah. It
the
would
other
just
two
take
I was aware of.
A call to Chris Fry and he'd give you an answer. Because he's the zoning administrator,
But you want it?
you know, on what they want to do.
Well, like Randy Derflinger applied for a
Mhm.
permit. This is kind of a new thing when they
And I think,
bring in a pre-built shed.
yeah, I think Marge did for their carport.
yeah, she did.
One for that.
We've had several of those.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't have thought if somebody brought in a garden shed that you'd have to have a freaking building permit. I don't know.
Those are usually portable.
Right, like a metal shed.
But most people leave them there when they sell their house, though.
Yeah.
They leave them.
But it's nothing permanent, though. It's
But
not
they
in
wouldn't
on
have to.
concrete.
No, they wouldn't have to, but most of them do, unless they put them on a pad.
Last I knew, if they were portable, you didn't have to, but that might
Yeah.
have changed.
So that's what I had heard too.
Well, it's the way it was when it first came about, but that's been a number of years ago. Maybe they've changed it a little, I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. We'll find out.
Can I ask a question about ordinances?
You can
How
answer it,
many-
Ask it, doesn't mean I'll
How many,
answer.
well, I think you can. How many ordinances are there?
I don't have any idea.
Why? Well, can we get copies of them? Are they
Well,
available
yes,
that we can
yes,
get
but-
copies?
What
They're in
book?
that book in there. You can
Yeah,
look
but we
them
want a
up.
copy at home. I mean, so
A
we know what
copy
the
at home
Or you
says-
want
ordinance
to
is.
come down on Saturday morning and have Mrs. Rutt make a copy of a ordinance. I don't know if she's gonna want to do the whole book.
That's why I asked if there was like a big book
That's
or
pretty-
just a,
pretty big.
you know,
It's a big book.
oh.
I was looking through it on the noise ordinances and it's
I
a big
wouldn't know
book.
why you'd want it unless you had a specific interest.
Well, I was just thinking like, you know, when you're in a
I'll
homeowners
recommend some books that
association.
are more interesting.
Well, I know we're not in a homeowners association, but when you are, you have covenants.
Right.
That's your laws and bylaws and all that. Well, same thing with your ordinances. If every household had a copy of them, but I didn't realize it was War
It's
and
pretty
Peace.
voluminous.
I think
Okay.
there's 174 of them.
In this lady that I was referencing earlier, I said, go down, get a copy of the relevant ordinances. Okay? I mean, it's certainly not a secret. And I know that There's even been some court cases on public disclosure recently involving City of Lincoln, some other. City of Lincoln wanted to charge $8,000 for information relative to a building that was costing the money in Havelock, I think it was. Anyway, the cost of reproducing the records is something of an issue. In this case, it was emails, copying emails and recovering emails and so on and so forth. My point is, those things can be made available on a need basis, but to say we're going to provide everybody with a book of ordinances, that's not very realistic, cost-wise.
So do we have an ordinance on stuff sitting out in the yard that, you know, like up there on the corner there?
We have nuisance ordinances, yes. It would fall under that.
Ordinance 149, so there's 149 of them.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Fire department roster update. We've got a request evidently from the department to add Sheila Durflinger, and that's Dan's wife, is it not? And Evan Skiles is the young man that moved in next to me. Remove Brandon Ochtermeyer and the late Raymond Kerwood. Normally we've kind of rubber stamped these recommendations from the department. Do you have any thought on that? Well, does anybody want to make a motion?
How many they have on the fire department, do we know? How many members
I
are on
haven't seen the
there?
roster lately.
Do we know?
I have a roster.
That's Dan.
For sure, yeah.
Isn't that Brandon, the one that was just approved to be on
Yeah.
it? Fire
Yeah,
department?
he missed one too many meetings because of his family.
Oh,
So they
really?
kicked him off. He called in and had a
I
reason,
believe
but
you're right.
They live in that Kerwood, I can't think of his first name.
Who's Raymond
Kenny
Kerwood?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
You're right.
mile or two out of Brittany, right on the highway,
Yep.
south side of the highway.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Even in the area, huh?
Yeah.
Dots, something about going to school to be an EMT.
Hmm.
I said, well, we need one here in town.
They do. They keep having to have Jefferson come up here.
22.
Jefferson County comes in.
And is Dan on there?
Yes.
Is-
Brandon
Is that
sat for
County
45
Raven
minutes
and
waiting for an
Brandon?
EMT to show up when Mrs. Lake,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wolf
Yes.
up there
Right, this
had
was
to,
last
when
November.
she passed out.
Mm-hmm.
He was the first one, he ran over there. That don't count.
So is there a
She
special
doesn't-
reason why we're removing two of them or
One of them
something?
died, and I
Oh, I see.
don't know
Okay.
what Brandon, people may be moved, I don't know.
No.
Nah, he missed one too many meetings.
Excuse me?
He missed one too many meetings, he said.
Oh. Meetings, huh?
What does this Sheila, doesn't she stay home with the kids or does she come to town?
She used to be on the department,
Right.
and I think when they moved out there, maybe she quit, but I think their kids are probably close to school age. And maybe she goes with Dan now and is,
Well, that's my question on that.
That's
If
what I
she's
would
in the
assume.
area, then that's a different deal. But if she's
Yeah, but I know
Boys
one
out there.
One at least is in school.
yeah.
They go to Brittany.
Mhm. I've heard of at least a couple of them are in school.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so I had the right person.
Mhm.
I didn't know what for sure what her name was.
Right.
I would tell probably if she's in the area, I mean, I don't know.
Brentwood,
I think. Or is he?
Brentwood.
Mhm. I think so.
Where's he live?
I think she would.
So they need to remove some
Why is he on?
more. Right?
I mean,
Right.
that's my, I think, I'm not positive. He doesn't live at home.
I'll move that we remove Brandon and Raymond.
Okay,
And we can just start with that.
okay. I'm listening.
And then I'd say hold off on adding until another day, I guess is what I'll say. Until we get more information on the people being added. I mean, I know your neighbors in the area, but the other one I don't know.
Jim, any thoughts? We have a well, I guess we do have a motion. We have a motion to drop remove the two from the roster, but to add nobody at present until we have further information on their,
Residency,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having some more information.
How about a training schedule? Anybody interested in that? Training schedule.
I'm sure they have one.
That'd be all right
I'm
too.
sure they have one.
Maybe
They
we need
document it
information
all.
on this one too, so to see if he lived, or his residency.
Want to add that to your motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do I need to name it specifically?
Or you want to see a training roster, you're saying?
No, I want a roster, I want to see a schedule of trainings. Over the course of like 6 months or whatever. Say 6 months, for lack of a better time frame. Do you want an explanation of residency requirements?
I just want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
if
think that might be a better way to
if
say
they're
it.
in the area when a call could be made,
I mean,
then that's
I'm not
they
sure
can
somebody in
cover.
Bruning is gonna do you a lot of good.
Right.
Well, that's what I was, the reason I was wondering.
I mean, is it or is it just a club?
Yeah.
I'd get it.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
I had a call the other night when we had the tornado that went over the house, you know, over Alec. Okay, and it did. It went right over us. Okay, somebody called me and asked me, does the sirens work for the tornado? I don't know. Do we have
one?
tornado sirens here?
Well, we did. I don't know whether it works or not.
Shouldn't we
I
have
remember
one?
one time we had a lot closer call than that, and they came around with a loudspeaker. But we were never in a warning area.
Well, I know that, but
And
I
that
mean,
one
we had
touched
hail and
down.
horizontal rain, and then it hit right over there in Dakin, so it'll come this direction. So, but anyway, I didn't know if we
You
had.
might want to attend one of their meetings and ask them that.
Okay.
I've got them, okay, the motion then is to
remove
Brandon Ochtemeyer and Raymond Kerwood from the roster. We're going to withhold approving any new members until we have an explanation of residency requirements
on the entire
for the department and a 6 month training schedule. You got it? See if we got any response. So, moved by Jeremy Van Weston, did you second or do I?
Yes, my second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Now I'll call the question. Jim?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Yes. The community center tables, this is, Marge brought this up to me since the last meeting, not that long ago, actually. The tables that we have at the community center are old and heavy. She'd like to get, she's proposing to get a half a dozen tables. I guess they did get some tables which they ran through the village for the fire department, so they wouldn't have to pay the sales tax on it, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But it looked like those 8-foot white top tables from Walmart around $89. Now, whether these were on special or not.
They came from Sure Bars.
Sure Bars, excuse me. Maybe they were on special, I don't know.
I don't know.
But I just saw that they had gotten 3, I think. Maybe 4.
Because it was $380 some
Right,
dollars.
and it figured out to about $90 a piece. And she would like to get 6 for regular use at the community center and put the old ones in the, I suppose, on the stage, or as far as I'm concerned, they could toss them. So that's what she's proposing. I think that'd probably be money well spent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be
If you have to move them around. She's involved in that in terms of when the building is rented, we have to rent the building about 10 times the pay for the tables. That's neither here nor there, I guess. The fact is, if you got to move them around, it's
Well, and they're falling apart.
And
They're old.
They're pretty old.
Yeah. So I'm not saying it's not legit. In fact, I'd make the motion to get 6 of them from Sure Parts. And if I fails for a lack of a second, I'll be fine.
I'll second that.
Jim, any thoughts?
No thoughts.
Okay, no thoughts. Question, Jeremy?
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah.
And I'll vote yes. All right, we're going to skip down to community service projects. I put this on the agenda because I had a request here a week or so ago from a parent who's Meridian now has a graduation requirement where, as a social studies requirement, each youngster has to have 20 hours of community service. And that's not a bad thing, except it sounds good on paper, but somebody has to supervise the youngster or youngsters in performing the community service. In Dakin, Jeremy might be able to supervise somebody.
They brought teachers in for the group they brought in, but yeah, I could.
All I'm saying here is before you say, okay, we'll find something for the kid to do, you better know who's going to be doing the supervising.
Right.
I lined a kid up to help Jim in some cemetery maintenance, but Jim's going to be there anyway. Jim didn't have to make a special trip out there. Nobody's going to want to spend 20 hours unless they got something that they're going to be doing anyway, and that the kid can help. So all I'm saying is don't volunteer the town, because we don't even have a town there.
But I know they are trying to go to all the towns. They did tell me that.
Well, and I don't. This young person wanted to do the work in Alec, and that's fine, but you got to have a sponsor.
Right.
Actually, the kid had something lined up in Hebron, but I'd rather have him help Jim if he can be of help. The point is, you just got to have supervision lined up along with the task. Okay, then we received a certificate of zoning compliance here from Thayer County. This is for 2 buildings that were put up by Matt and Dan Buckley west of town. They fall within the 1 mile limit, village limit. So all this is notification from the zoning board that these buildings were approved by the county. They're 2 fairly large metal buildings, 30 by 60 and 40 by 120. So, not just it's 5, I guess. And then we also got a letter from the zoning board that we aren't required to do anything as regards zoning. This letter is to inform you of the Thayer County Zoning and Planning's decision on your request for the subdivision of .37 acres from irregular tract 21 in the village limits. That's the location of the future pump station. After some discussion, the board has decided to not require the village to go through the process of obtaining a subdivision, as this tract is strictly for the benefit of the village of Alexandria to install a wastewater pumping station with backup generator. So, again, I notice that we're not out of compliance there. And at that point, Alan, I'll ask you to report on the water tower inspection.
We did our inspection annual, well, every 2 years we do a water tower inspection. You're gonna have to share.
I've seen it, so okay.
They got some proposals in there for exterior painting, interior work. What they basically found on the inside was some minor peeling. They patched some of it up. They said in 3 years it's gonna take a little bit more. You can see that what they have for the exterior and the interior, and it's an inflated price of doing it down the road. There's some safety upgrades on it. If you look at the third sheet, it'll show you what they found or what they do. All in all, the inside of the tower looks good. The exterior looks just pretty good. But I mean, it's something that we're gonna have to look at down the road. If there's any lead paint that's left on the outside, on the exterior, that has to come off and that has to be caught, and because of the lead in the paint. So that's one of the reasons the exterior is as high as it is.
Mrs. Rutt and I looked at this a little bit Saturday, was it, Don? We were looking at this. Well, and you looked up, when was it that?
2003.
Was the
2003.
last exterior painting? So that's been a little over
One
10
coat.
10 years,
One coat.
one coat.
Okay. The estimate, I'll call it an estimate. When you say it's inflated, we don't, I'm sure they gave you a couple figures to throw in if you wanted to budget.
McGuire will work with you on that. I mean, I think in 2003, well, we did a lot of work to the tower, and I think it ran around 40,000. We did that in 2 or 3 payments.
Okay.
That
Well,
was-
this painting, that were they talking about one coat of paint?
No, I think they're talking 2 coats.
Are they talking about sandblasting it?
Yeah, they sandblast anything that's bad, and then they prime it, and then they paint it.
Okay. So it's more than just painting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just don't go up there and shoot it.
And did they have a, because I didn't see anything that said, recommended date 2000 such and such.
No, they said, but like they claim, the longer you put it off, eventually the more it's gonna cost you. Like if, instead of doing it 3 years from now, if we do it 10 years from now, it's gonna
Right,
be.
well, that's probably true. I mean, if you,
Well, the amount of sandblasting, depending on how much
Sure.
rust and corrosion there is, it's just gonna increase, it's just gonna go
yeah,
up. It's
the
not-
longer you wait, the more preparation. you're
Right,
gonna have.
right.
Um,
The epoxy on the inside looks pretty good. He showed me pictures of the interior. I mean, there's places by the bowl that's gonna need some work, and there's a little bit it's actually on the southeast side of the inside of the tank, that there's some pieces that have peeled off. He went back up and he put that epoxy coating back on it. But, he said it's gonna take a little bit more the next time we do an inspection. I mean, we can just do an inspection again in 2 years like we did, and have them just keep patching it too.
Well, I was thinking more in terms instead of budgeting, so that in 3 years, maybe you could do one or
Yeah.
the other,
Yeah,
and then 3 more years do the, say 3 years you do the exterior, 3 more years you do the interior, but have the money set aside in advance
Sure.
instead of paying it after the fact.
sure.
And setting aside a line item in the, maybe directing our accountant to
Mm-hmm.
put a line item in the budget for that. And it still would be, well, it wouldn't have to be, it could be a separate fund, water tower fund. Couldn't it? It's like the library or something like that. And money
Where would the money come from?
would have to come from general
Water.
fund receipts or water,
Should come from
water
water.
receipts, yeah. Or it could be a combination of the two.
And I'd rather see the interior before the exterior. I mean, the interior is
Well,
more,
I might have-
is
yeah, okay.
more
Might
important.
have that reversed.
Yeah.
Actually, I thought the exterior looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It may not in 6 years.
Mhm.
Anything you wanted to add to that?
Not really. Like I said, basically, came out good. I mean, he said for the age of the paint, age of the epoxy lining on the inside.
I have a question. Says on there, a couple of lap seams are starting to spread again.
See, that's that, where I said that piece came off. Or came-
That's what you were
Yep.
talking about.
Mhm. It's basically epoxy that's split, and it's split on a seam, is what it did. Jeff had pictures of that, he showed me that. He said when he went back up with the brush and the knife to clean it up, he said it was a little more severe than what it first looked like, but they got it patched and
Really?
other than that, they probably had a taste of chlorine for a little bit, but I mean, that all goes with it.
Who paid that?
Does anybody have any more questions on the water tower?
It's not that big.
I got a few things I wanted to add.
As you're coming in town.
I disconnected one meter, took a meter out of one pit in town. I hooked one meter up at a pasture, and I gave Donna the reading of the meter. We took some water, we flushed, Mrs. Root was here, and we looked at the video of the sewer lines. And we had a little discrepancy on the sewer line on North Street about the opening, if it was cut open. And we run water down there, and it is closed. So if Midland would happen to be back in the area to cut that open, would cost the homeowner $600 to open that up. Steve, you might,
I did, I talked to her this evening.
Okay.
And, I talked to her, well, I guess I hadn't talked to her about that, Mrs. Rudd had. But essentially, she provides a check for 600, or not check, cashier's
Cash.
check or cash in the amount of $600. She'll contact the company and they'll come and open it. But that price is probably only good when they're
in the area. Because I think Donna said something about they were thinking about getting them to come to Dakin to do a line over in Dakin. And while they were in Dakin, they'd probably come down here to open that
It's
service up.
2 different crews.
It's 2 different crews?
Well, there's somebody that were working in Jansen too.
Yeah, they're working in Jansen now.
Just one that would come over
That
here?
would do this, yeah.
Okay. Are they slip lining in Jansen? Or are they just,
I think they are. I'm not positive. I know they're doing quite a bit of work over there.
okay. Because we just,
She's been told, she's aware of what is
Okay.
required.
we basically had to put water down there to show them that, it wasn't gonna come out into the sewer line, so. Other than that, samples, everything's been coming back good, so that's basically all I've got. Anybody have any questions? Jim, Jeremy, Steve? Judy, nobody?
No.
Okay,
Just, anybody that inquires needs to understand that the responsibility for hooking up, you know, to the village water, to the village, or to the
Sewer.
village sewer, is the responsibility of the landowner,
right.
subject to relevant ordinances. Okay? It's covered in the ordinance, has been for
Years.
years, and it's at their expense. Somebody might say, well, why wouldn't we open this? The reason those things were closed was because the properties hadn't been occupied. In this
Right,
case, it was
exactly.
for over 10 years, but the cutoff was 5 years. But even if that's open, there's no guarantee that that sewer line, and I told her that, is operating. I don't know that.
That's
If
right.
it's not operating, it's their expense.
That's their expense.
We know that the main is operational.
Right.
Same thing with the water line.
Yeah, that's their
And
expense.
not just this person, but we've been over this with many people.
Yes.
It's like somehow the village has a responsibility to hook them up,
They don't.
and we don't.
They don't.
Why weren't the owners of the property notified that they were gonna be slip lined, and then they could have chose not to?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, over there, you know, like you slip line properties that were vacant for 10,
We didn't cut open the sewer line.
yeah. So why, maybe, if you would have notified the owners of the property that owned it, maybe they would have said to leave it open.
Well,
You
we
know.
didn't want it open.
Why? You didn't want anybody living
Because the whole
there?
idea was to cut down on the groundwater infiltration. All these openings were creating groundwater infiltration. So really didn't care whether they wanted them open or not. If there hadn't been any occupancy there, it's another case of it costs the village money. They aren't contributing anything to the village.
That's
Okay,
I see.
it's costing you money, Doris.
Right.
When I say the village, that's you
Right.
as well as
I know.
us.
I know.
So that's the reason. I think in some cases, if we were real close to that 5-year timeline, I think people were notified. Some
Okay.
people were contacted, but in this case, it's been, well, I asked Calvin, and he said 2000. 2000 was the year
Yeah.
it moved out, so 13 or 14 years ago. Okay, thank you, Alan. I don't know who even decided who's gonna sit down on that. As far as we know, there'll be a bid opening on the 4th, right? Is that at 10 o'clock? Or is it even that?
Yeah, no, the time's in the paper.
Okay.
I'd have to
Don't
look
remember?
again. I don't
Okay.
remember what it,
Well, there's just gonna be 2 board members in there, not, I mean, I can be one. You can find somebody else, I guess. Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
move we adjourn.
Okay, discussion, no, Jeremy,
Yes.
Jim?
Yep.
Yes. We're adjourned.
Thank you.